Hey everyone, I'm Ace of Clay and welcome to another sculpting video. If you're new here, I'm a sculptor and every week I make a new sculpture. Today, we're continuing Halloween sculptures with a spooky little scarecrow scene. And before we get started, don't forget to grab your Winston plush. This is my original character and he is available right now at aceofclay.com. He's got all the details of the sculpture, everything has been embroidered. He's got a hang tag with his backstory on it, fuzzy hair, real buttons, and he's really cute, and I'm even signing them if you want me to. So head on over to aceofclay.com and grab one before they're gone. And now without further ado, let's sculpt a scarecrow. Alright, let's get started. I've got my used wooden plaque here with one hole drilled in it. This is perfect for this project. So I'm going to start by creating the outline of the scarecrow using a bamboo skewer and of course some aluminum wire. Once the wire is on, I'm going to brush on some bacon bond and then bulk him out with some super sculpty ultralight. The ultralight is also going to secure all of my wires. Now this is going to be a mini diorama of sorts, so I want to cover the base in some ultralight as well. Once the armature is looking pretty good, it's time to bake it. And once it's baked and cooled down, let's cover everything in some super sculpty original. I got these nice even sheets by rolling the clay through my pasta maker on the thickest setting. Now the arms and the main supporting posts need to look like old wood, so I'm going to carve away different pieces with my palette knife to give it a more weathered look before I go in and add my wood grain with my explorer tool. As you can see, I'm working my way up the sculpture, so the next step is to cover the torso in some more super sculpting and then start detailing the fabric that's going to be draped on top. To create the fabric using a familiar technique, I'm using snakes of clay and blending them in with the surface. For the aesthetic I'm going for on this piece, the more folds and wrinkles, the better. I want this to look like a very old scarecrow that has been subject to the elements for many years. Now that the torso looks pretty good in the front, we're going to work our way onto the arms and cover those wires with some clay. I'm then going to repeat the same process I used on that main supporting post to make this look like weathered wood. After some more minor details and adjustments, it's time to finish off the top of that supporting post. For the first detail I'll be adding to the base, I'm going to create a tombstone-like post that's going to support a hanging sign. I'm making the underlying structure of the post from an old clay box that I'm attaching clay to with some bacon bond. Now the clay box wasn't the best choice for this because the surface is glossy and the clay and bacon bond kind of slid around. Cardboard or raw chipboard would have been much easier. Once my post is covered in clay, it's time to add the bricks. Now we're going to finish off the top of our post with a bamboo skewer that I'm going to add a decorative top to. This is of course going to be a stylized skull. After detailing the skull, I'm going to texture the brick using this dollar store face scrub brush. To create the arm that's going to support the future hanging sign, I'm using some aluminum wire and twisting it into a little swirl at the end for a nice extra touch, and then I'm going to insert it into my post and start working on my sign. I want the sign to look like wood, so for the first step I'm going to create some deep horizontal lines to create the look of panels, and then go in and add my wood grain. And we can't forget to poke some holes to suspend the sign later, and that's kind of what it's going to look like. Now for the next detail, I think I want to add a little cat, maybe a cute one even. So I'm just going to cover this little chunk of aluminum foil with some clay and start detailing it. Now to make the cat a little more dynamic, I want to make it look like she's licking her paw. So I'm making her head tilted downwards a little bit and extending the neck. Now I just want to pre-poke the hole for the cat's arm and then make the little paw over a piece of wire and then stick that in. Looking pretty good so far. I really don't enjoy sculpting animals, I'm not gonna lie, but every time I do it, I end up liking the result. I just have this preconceived notion in my head that it's not going to come out good, and I just avoid making them all together. Maybe I'll learn this time. If you can relate to this too, like you're scared to sculpt a face or hands, or maybe a freestanding figure, and you're worried to the point of not doing it, honestly, what's the worst thing that can happen? Think about it. Literally, the worst thing would be that you smash the sculpt and start over. You never know what you're capable of until you give it a try. After detailing the fur on our little cat here, the last step is to give her a little tail. Aw, look at it. Now we're just going to keep bouncing around from thing to thing, and to give that arm on our post a little extra something, I'm going to create a 3 skull motif that I will bake and glue onto that aluminum arm. And that's what she's going to look like. Alright, now back to the Scarecrow, ADHD coming in hot today. I'm going to create tattered draped pieces of fabric on the wooden poles. This will further age the look of the Scarecrow, like his arms have been on for so long that they've been reduced to strips of fabric. I'm going to make these out of cosclay because cosclay stays flexible after it's baked. And these are going to be very thin. Now this guy is going to look like he's being held together by a bunch of rope, so I'm going to be strategically adding the rope to necessary points on his body throughout the rest of the sculpting process. And you make the rope by rolling out a very thin snake of clay and then twisting it into itself. Now let's make his first hand. I'm going to sculpt this like I would any other hand, but I want it to look like an empty glove. So once I'm done sculpting the hand, I'm going to flatten it out and add a bunch of seams. I'm making the glove in 2 parts. The first part being the main part of the glove that I'm going to stick on with some bacon bond. Then the next part is the bottom of the glove, which I'm going to make and stick on separately. To join them, I'm going to add another piece of rope to make it look like it has been tied to the pole. Now let's add some more tattered fabric to the other side. And of course we need a bunch more rope. Now for some extra character, instead of sticking on another glove for his other hand, I'm going to create a bouquet of branches that are going to make up his hand. Thought this was a nice touch. And we're going to make the branches look like they're held on with some more rope. Alright, we're going to take a quick break from today's video to talk about our sponsor, BetterHelp. Thank you, BetterHelp, for sponsoring today's video. Mental health is so important. I know it's a regular struggle for me. It's especially important when it comes to being a content creator and having to make a new sculpture every week. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it is 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 experienced therapists that can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. You can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's through text, chat, video, or phone call. You can message your therapist at any time and even schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. And if your therapist isn't the right fit for whatever reason, you can switch to a new one for no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you will get the same experience and quality that you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist that is custom picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. If all of this sounds good and you're ready to start taking steps to better your mental health, head on over to betterhelp.com/aceofclay, that's better H-E-L-P, and you will save 10% on your first month. I have them linked below for you. Everything you need is in the description box. Thanks again, BetterHelp, for sponsoring today's video. Now back to our sculpture. Alright, now we're just going to add a couple more details, maybe some rope, and then we're going to finish off the bottom of the shirt. This is also going to be made with cosplay. Again, it stays flexible. I don't have to worry about this breaking, and I don't have to reinforce it with anything. Now moving on to the Scarecrow's head, I'm going to keep it simple and go with a nice burlap bag style that is gathered at the bottom with some rope. We're going to poke in some eyes with a large ball stylus, add some seams and stitching, and texture up the surface with the textured part of a sculpting tool. Here's a little trick for you. If you ever make the hole in the head too big for the armature it's going to go on, poke in some extra clay in the hole, and then when you press it onto the armature, it'll be nice and secure. Now let's create the gathered fringe that's going to be at the bottom of this burlap bag head. Now for something a little different, instead of a stereotypical straw hat, I'm going to give this guy some cat ears. I just liked how unexpected these were. Almost like the farmer or whoever made this scarecrow had their kid come up to them and ask if he could add the cat ears to it. I don't know, kind of tells a little story, right? It's a mystery. And then I still think this thing needs a little something else, so we're going to add an owl to his shoulder. And before we stick the owl on, we're going to secure his feet and then pop him on with some bacon bond. Now for the final step, we're going to keep the base simple before we add everything by just texturing the surface with this ball of aluminum foil. This is going to make it look like grass and dirt. Now let's secure all our little extras with some bacon bond, and get this guy in the oven. And I'm gonna wrap the cat's tail around that post. I thought this was cute. After a couple touch-ups here and there, it's time to bake. And we're gonna carefully bring it to the oven. And once it's baked and completely cooled down, it's time for paint. But before we paint it, I gotta glue on my little skull motif with some super glue. And that actually worked really well. Now let's start painting. I'm using Army Painter war paints for this entire project, starting with the wood planks. Now let's paint up his shirt, this nice dingy green color that I mixed up. And for his head, we're using the color Skeleton Bone. While I'm painting this guy, let me know if you want to see another spooky scene next week, or what other Halloween themed pieces you'd like to see me make this year. Again, my goal with this Scarecrow is to make him look super weathered and old, so I'm sticking with a pretty desaturated color palette, and I'm being sure to dirty him up in all the right spots. Once the majority of my base tones are applied, I'm going to go in with a dark wash and sort of antique the entire thing. By antiquing, I mean just brushing on the wash and then wiping off the excess with my fingertips or a paper towel. This is going to get that dark color in all the nooks and crannies and really heighten the look of the piece. And here I thought I wanted to make those big stitches on his face black, but I don't really like how they look, so I end up dabbing off that black and just weathering everything all together. Once my wash is completely dry, I'm going to go in and highlight some things with some dry brushing. To dry brush a piece, all you have to do is completely saturate your brush in the lighter color of your choice, and then wipe off pretty much all of it, and then swiftly brush it back and forth onto the surface until the paint is applied to the saturation you want. Now that the Scarecrow is looking pretty good, it's time to paint the base, but this bright green color is not going to work. Let's mix up a darker one. Now I'm going to heavily dry brush some brown onto that surface to just make it look dead and like it's the fall. Now we're going to darken some areas with some black. This is the same thing I was doing with the brown color, just black. And we're going to paint the cat just because I still have black on my brush. And it's the next thing. Now I'm going to paint the arm on our post black because it's going to be metallic gold, and metallics always look best over black. And we're going to highlight the cat a little bit with some gray, really bring out that fur texture, and paint our owl. For our stone post, I'm going to paint this a medium gray tone that I will later add a dark wash over to get into all of those spaces in between each brick, and then we're going to go in and weather it. I'm going to go in with a pretty heavy wash that I mixed up myself with some just black paint and water, and really make sure that this darkens this thing. And for the final step on the post, we're going to add some light gray to highlight things, add some moss with green paint, and then add some sort of calcium deposits or water stains dripping down everywhere. Now let's brush on some gold metallic to that arm. And let's paint the sign. Now I thought long and hard about what I wanted the sign to say, and I just settled on beware, but I don't know. I was gonna write like bruh or something, you know, funny, but I don't know. I just kept it boring. I'm sorry. If you have something better for me to write on the sign, let me know in the comments. And we're going to finish off the sign once it's completely dry with another wash, and of course attach it with some floral wire and paint the floral wire black. Now say it with me. And he's done! My creepy scarecrow is complete. Let me know how you think I did in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check me out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and TikTok at Ace of Clay, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.